All right, class. So let's start with a recap of what we have been discussing the previous week. So we are still continuing our discussion with the graph theory, of course. And last week we had a formal introduction to various concepts in graph theory, like things like what are paths, what are circuits. What we had specifically discussed in the last lecture was combination of two concepts, like if we have to check whether two graphs are isomorphic or not, how can we do it or relate it with the concept of path. And we saw that one of the graph invariants, in addition to the total number of edges or total number of vertices, is also the existence of simple circuits. What are their lengths? If there is a graph which has a simple circuit of say length x, then its isomorphic graph should also have any circuit of the same length. If it's not there, then they are not isomorphic. So this was one of the graph invariants that we started our discussion with. After that, we saw how can we count the different paths between vertices. This can be done using adjacency matrix. So if you want to find a path of length 4 between different sets of vertices, you can just take the nth power. If you take want to find of length n, you take the nth power of that adjacency matrix and the entry of that particular column. So suppose you want to find the path from node 1 to node 4. So the 1/4 entry, that means first row, fourth column entry, the value of that will tell you how many paths exist between a set of vertices, right? After that, what we introduced was something called a very popular problem in the field of computer science called Konigsberg problem, or also known as Seven Bridge problem, wherein there's a town called Konigsberg in Prussia, and what they wanted was to find they wanted to find that kind of a route or a circuit which started from one of these towns, A, B, C, or D, and it returned to the same town, but it crossed all the bridges, but exactly once. No bridge was crossed twice, right? In other words, what they basically wanted was they wanted a simple circuit in the multigraph. Okay, and such kind of circuit is known as the Eulerian circuit, wherein you cover all the edges, but with a constraint that none of the edges are going to be repeated twice, right? And with regards to this, we studied a very popular theorem, which is also the necessary and sufficient condition for Eulerian circuit. This was also known as Euler's theorem or Euler's theorem, which is that if you want to find out a Eulerian circuit in a graph, the way you can do it is every vertex must have an even degree. And we logically see why this holds is because in Eulerian circuit, you want that whenever you enter a node, you need to come out of it. Okay, if it's an intermediate node, because only then you would have visited it only once. And if you look at the starting vertex, since it's a circuit, so if you are moving out of that node, at the end you need to enter it. So as a result, all the degrees will always be an even power. Whenever you enter a vertex, you need to necessarily that many times move out. Okay, and that was the result which was proved by this famous mathematician Euler, which is also known as Euler's theorem, right? And then we saw some of the applications of Eulerian circuits, and then we moved to something called Hamilton paths and circuits, or Hamiltonian paths and circuits, which are a slightly different concept than the Euler. That is, in this, what we want, it's again going to be a simple path or a simple circuit, but the difference is you cannot pass through a vertex twice. Okay, so if you look at this case, if you want to cover through all the edges, you want to find a Eulerian circuit. Suppose you choose these paths A, B, B, E, E, D, D, C, C, E, A, E, A. So you can see all edges have been traversed exactly once. But if you look at the vertex, it has been visited twice, right? So in Hamiltonian paths or circuits, this is not allowed. You need to visit the vertices exactly once, right? And then we saw that, like the Euler's theorem, there's no straightforward condition to show that Hamiltonian paths exist, right? But the vice versa, you can show it's true. Like if you have a vertex with degree 1, it can definitely never be an Hamiltonian circuit, because to be a circuit itself, its degree should be at least 2. That means you should have an incoming as well as outgoing vertex. After that, we saw some results and applications of Hamiltonian circuits, and that is where we ended up, the last week. Any questions from the previous lectures? before we move ahead? Yes, class, any questions? Okay. So what we are going to start today is one of the very popular applications of the graph theory, especially if we talk about the CSIT students. Okay, this is something which is going to be, repeatedly invoked in your BTech coursework, whether it's in your data structures course, whether it's in algorithm course, or later even in your computer networks course. That is the shortest path problem. Okay, let's try to understand what is this problem, and probably your programming assignment will also be based on one of these aspects. So let's first, again, as usual, motivate our problem before we study what it is all about, how we solve it. The shortest path problem, let's try to motivate it. So as we have been repeatedly seeing throughout this lecture module, that how different applications, different scenarios can be modeled as graphs, right? Now, many problems can be modeled using graphs, okay? But with a specific constraint. Okay, whatever graph we have seen so far, we were just seeing there was edges between the nodes and that's it, right? Sometimes what we require is these edges need to have some weight. Okay, so a lot of problems are there wherein graphs, that's fine. You are representing nodes, vertices by something, and the connection between them by the edges. All of that is fine. But sometimes what we require is graph with these edges should also have some weights assigned to it. Okay, let me give you an example. If suppose I want to make a network of an airline system, okay, so I can represent the vertices as the cities. Okay, so suppose this is Delhi, this is Srinagar, this is Mumbai, this is Chennai, this is Kolkata. And if there is a direct flight between them, I put an edge. Okay, assuming that there's a direct flight between everyone in this graph. Now, so fine, if I have to check connectivity, questions like, connectivity, is there a direct flight between Delhi and Mumbai? Can you answer with this graph? I mean, here I have not put on any weights. I've just shown cities as nodes and the direct flight between them as an edge. If I ask you the question of connectivity, that is there a direct flight between Delhi and Chennai? Can you answer that question based on this graph? Just the connectivity, I'm not asking anything else. I'm just asking, is there a direct connectivity between two cities? Suppose I ask you Delhi and Chennai. Can you answer that based on just on looking at this graph? Yes, no? You think you cannot answer this? Then what can you answer from this graph? So tell me, can you answer these questions from this graph? Is there a direct flight from Delhi to Chennai? Is there a direct flight from Delhi to Srinagar? Can you answer these kind of questions? You can. Why cannot you, Kundan? Right? Because connectivity is what is shown by here. But suppose I change the question and ask you, what is the fastest way to reach? I don't want a direct flight, but I want to know fastest ways to reach Chennai from Delhi. Can you answer that just by looking at this graph? I'm not just asking any path, I'm asking the fastest way or fastest route to reach Chennai to Delhi. Can I answer that just on looking at this graph? Okay. So Kunda, everyone is thinking yes. Now I'm confused. What is a no for? What is a yes for? The answer is actually no, right? Because somebody may say that, see, Delhi to Chennai from this road may take 2 steps. From here it's also taking 2 steps, but we don't know what time does this link take. I have not told you, I have not revealed this information. Delhi to Kolkata may take, say, 3 hours, where Delhi to Srinagar takes just 1.5 hours, right? These values I had not put in there, right? It was all unweighted scenario. So you cannot answer actually this question, what is the fastest way or anything dealing with quantity. As long as you just require connectivity, that is there a path, that you can answer using unweighted graphs. But things like what is the fastest way, what is the shortest way, what is the minimum value, what is the maximum value, these questions cannot be answered by unweighted graphs unless the scenario is unweighted. That means if suppose instead of finding the fastest way, I'll ask you what is the smallest number of hops. Hops means I'm not concerned about time. What I just don't want is how many stopovers are there. Suppose I need to go to Srinagar. Okay, there are multiple ways to do it. Okay, there is Delhi to Srinagar. There is Delhi to Mumbai to Srinagar. There is maybe Delhi to Mumbai to Chennai to Srinagar. Obviously, I'll not take that. But all of these are paths, right? Now, if I ask you what are the smallest number of hops, because I'm not concerned about time, okay, but I'm concerned about my stopovers, how many times I have to stop. So such kind of questions can also be answered here. So basically, what I want to highlight is those features or those applications where having a unit weight at the edges works for you. Such cases can be solved using simple unweighted graphs that we have seen so far in the various examples. Where you want to check connectivity or you're just concerned about hops, that means you give equal weight to all edges. Such scenarios can work well with unweighted graphs. But things like, suppose I model a road network where the places are the destination and the roads between them are the edges, and I want to find the shortest path from one place to another. What kind of graph would it require, weighted or unweighted? What I mean is, should I give same weight to all roads, or should I change the weight based on traffic, how expanded the road is? What do you think? What would the road network and the question of shortest path require? What kind of graph would it require? Yes? What kind of graph would it require? Weighted graph, right? Because you cannot give same weight to all the edges. So any scenario which requires giving different weight to the edges, such graphs are known as weighted graphs. Okay. Is this clear where weighted graphs are used, where unweighted are used? Unweighted are used required only for those scenarios where all edges are equal. There is no preference or high weight given to anyone. Okay, everything is equal. And weighted graphs are used where you need to make this, you need to distinguish between different situations or different edges. Okay, so that you answer certain questions. Okay, is this clear? The scenarios where weighted and unweighted would be required. Yes, is this clear? Okay, let us see some illustrative examples to understand this. So, as I already told you, if you consider the road network, okay, where the destinations are modeled as nodes and the roads between them as the edges, then the problem involving distances, that means how do you find the shortest path between a particular city, that can be used to or modeled as weighted graph. Similarly, if you consider the flight network, but instead of checking the connectivity, you want to check what is the least flight time. This can also be done by assigning whatever time you require for flight as the edge weight. Similarly, if I have a bus network, okay, what are the different bus numbers which are on different routes, and I want to check what is the bus route I should take to reach from source A to destination B, which has the minimum fare. Okay, this can also be modeled as a weight situation or a weighted graph. And in all these, find the shortest path, find the least minimum time, find the least amount of fare. All of what we are really dealing with is shortest path problem. That is, given a graph, how do you find the shortest path from node A to node B? Okay. So these are some of the illustrative examples. So the first example we see is of the mileage. Okay. So these are various cities in US, and you can see the edge between the two means there's a road between them, there's a connectivity between them, and the weight on that tells you what is the mileage over that road. Okay, so if you have to find from San Francisco to New York, what would be the best route? So you can see there are multiple routes. Okay, you can just add them up and see which one is the best one for you. Similarly, if you look at the flight network, so you can see this tells you the flight time. Okay, so if you take a direct flight from say San Francisco to New York, it takes 4 hours 5 minutes. Okay, but if you agree to take it, via Chicago, then it takes some different amount of time. Okay, so here we can find, if we try to find the shortest path on this graph between two nodes, that will give us the minimum flight time. Okay, similarly, you can see same network. Okay, if you look at the network, is the same network of US cities, but you can see how you have modeled it using three different types of scenarios. Okay, what if you look at the unweighted version of it? Unweighted version of all of it will look same. It would just be the US cities network, okay, and there will be edges between them. Okay, but you can see when I dive deep into this weighted scenario and I assigned weight to each edge based on different application scenario, I was able to extract three different graphs. One was dealing with mileage, one with flight time, one with fare. Okay, so you can see how same unweighted graph can be modeled as different weighted graphs by giving different weights to the edges based on the application scenario. Okay, is everyone able to map it? See, if you make it unweighted, what you're going to do is all these numbers on the edges, you're going to remove it. So if you remove all the numbers on the edges, you will see all of them boil down to same graph, which is the network of US city, right? But when I deal with different application scenarios and I try to give it a different weight based on an application scenario, you can see how it turns up to be different kinds of graphs, right? Is this clear? The mapping of weighted unweighted graphs. This is clear, class? Okay. Okay, so that's the key message from the previous two slides, that whenever we deal with such scenarios, we cannot work just with unweighted graphs. We require a number or a weight to be assigned to each of the edge, and such kinds of graphs are known as weighted graphs. Okay, so far we saw this airline network example. Even in computer network, okay, and this is something you will study in your computer network when you go through this course, we also use weighted graphs. Okay, how do we use weighted graphs in computer network? The devices, whether it's end device or router, they are the nodes. If you have a link between them, they are the edges. Now when you have to put on the weights on this, so what you do, you try to look at the resources. Okay, that means how much traffic is going on through that link, or what is the bandwidth of that link, how good is that link, how bad is that link. Based on that, you assign some weight or a score to an edge. Okay, and then you try to find out what is the best path to go from device A to device B. That is how actually internet works. The idea of routing, of sending data from one device to another over the internet, that's exactly done using the modeling of the internet as a weighted graph. Okay, so now in all these problems, whether it was airline network, road network, or computer network, okay, which has been modeled as weighted graph, often what we require to do is we want to find a path of least length between two vertices. Okay, so now you are given a weighted graph. Okay, and the way we represent weighted graph is G equal to VEW, where V is the vertex set, E is the edge set, and W is the weight function from edge to real numbers. Okay, that means every edge has an associated value with it. Okay, this is how we typically represent a weighted graph. In addition to V and E, we have a weight function W, which assigns every edge a real number or number. Okay, so now once we have this weighted graph, as I said, normally what we are interested in is finding a path of a particular length, mostly a least length, between any two vertices in the graph. Okay, so if I talk about finding a path of least length in unweighted graph, what would it equal to? Okay, so let me just draw an example so that you can picturize it. Okay, if I ask you what is the shortest path from A to B, so what does a path of a least length mean in terms of unweighted graph? what would it be equal to? What is the length of path in unweighted graph? Exactly. It's the number of edges traversed, because every edge has the same weight, that is 1. So the least path is going to be the least number of edges you have traversed. Like you can see, it's 3 actually from each side. So here the least path is of 3. So basically number of edges traversed. Okay. But now suppose I assign weights to it. Then what is the path length equal to? Is it equal to the number of edges traversed or something else in the weighted scenario? Exactly. It is the sum of edges traversed, sum of the weight of edges traversed. So if you had to generalize the definition of path length, how would you do that? Okay. If you look, both of them are in a way same. Can you tell me what would be the generalized definition of a path length? A definition which will hold for weighted as well as unweighted graph. Yes, class? You can see the definition all of you have provided for the weighted graphs is actually a generic definition. Okay, let's see why. I can define the path length of a graph in general as sum of the weight of edges traversed. Okay, now let us see, does it hold in both cases or not? Okay, for the weighted graph it clearly holds, because that is what is our total weight, right? The sum of the weights of edges is the path length. But now if I come to unweighted graph, what is the weight of each edge? If it's unweighted, what is the weight of each edge if it's unweighted? So in unweighted, we don't give any importance to the edge weight, because, right, it's considered to be 1. Okay, now if you sum up, you follow the same definition. It is sum of weight of edges traversed. Is it the same thing, number of edges traversed? It is, right? Because every edge traversed gives you a 1, and some of them will give you exactly the number of edges traversed. Okay, so in general, path length can be defined as sum of weight of edges traversed. And when you consider this definition for unweighted graphs, you can simply put in the weight of edge as 1 and you will get the same answer. Is it clear to everyone? Path length in both directed and undirected versions? Yes, class, is this clear to everyone? Okay, great. Okay, so here are some more examples. Okay, again, it's a US city. Okay, but the examples again are different. So what are our examples? The examples here considered are okay. So first one is the response time. Okay, what is the response time between different cities? Okay, so if you model some server stations in the different US cities, what is the response time between them? Okay, what does response time mean? If I send a message from Los Angeles to Dallas, what time does my response take to come back? Okay, that means the time spent from sending the query to get the response back is your response time. Okay, that is this graph basically, where you have units in time. I think this one was related to some distance. Okay, last one is your lease rate. If you want to give some communication link on lease, what does it cost? Okay, again, the thing which is highlighted from this is same network. In the previous slide we had 3 different scenarios. Now we are considering not the road networks or the connectivity network, but the computer server network in these cities. Okay, again, picking up 3 different parameters can give us 3 different versions of our same graph. Okay. Now in all these examples, whether it's distance, whether it's response time, whether it's lease rate, whether it was fear graph, whether it was a flight time graph, etc., etc., all these graphs. Okay. What is the main questions that we are trying to address? Okay. The main questions we are trying to address in all of them is, most of them is, find the least fare, find the least flight time. Because like we as humans, we always try to have our schedules as efficient as possible. If someone tells you there's a flight going between two cities which takes you 10 hours versus a flight which will give you just 2 hours, you will always choose the 2 one, right? Because that is how it's efficient. So in all these graphs, you always come up with these questions like, what is the least fare? What is the least response time? Okay, such that the efficiency in most of them is achieved. Okay, and all this actually it boils down to a problem called shortest path problem. Okay, so if you ignore all the application scenarios, ultimately when you want to find the shortest path or the least weight path, what does it mean? It means a path whose path length is as minimum as possible. So all these graphs, when you try to answer their respective question, what you ultimately require is, you want to find a path whose length is the minimum. Okay, let us try to match it. If this was distance and I wanted to find the shortest path, then path whose length is minimum will obviously give me the shortest path. Okay. Similarly, if this graph was instead flight time and I find a path whose length is minimum, what will that give me? That will give me the flight which takes the least flight time. Okay. Similarly, if I look at the response time, okay, response time between servers of different cities, then what kind of question would I be asking in this? What is the route which gives me the least amount of response time? Okay, you can see again that boils down to finding a path whose length is minimum. Right. Similarly, if I want to find out if I model lease rates of particular communication links per month, obviously, what would be the question I would be interested in this graph? It would be, what is the least lease rate that I have to pay, right? Which again boils down to finding a path whose length is minimum. Okay. So long story short, what we highlight from this, there are numerous and diverse applications which rely on this problem of finding the path whose length is minimum in a graph. Okay. And such kind of problem is known as your shortest path problem. Okay. Is everyone able to relate the general shortest path problem with the specific application scenarios? C-class, the algorithm and the problem itself is fine, right? But the motivation part should be clear. Is everyone able to map how this generic problem of shortest path problem boils down to different application scenarios in different contexts? What are the questions they ask and how this answers them? Yes, class, is that clear to everyone? Okay, great. So let us start with, there are a lot of shortest path algorithms which have been proposed. Okay. Uh, so you will see in your data structures and maybe in algorithm course, there's Bellman-Ford algorithm. There is this algorithm that what we are going to discuss at least is the what you say, the Dijkstra's algorithm. Okay, but there are many parallel algorithms which have been proposed and which you will study, in various of your courses, various different courses. Okay, but what we are interested in, or the most popular shortest path algorithm, is known as your Dijkstra's algorithm, which is kind of silent. So this Dijkstra's algorithm is what we are going to study today. Okay, and I'm sure in your algorithm and other course, you will study many more such algorithms. So let's try to understand the basics of the Dijkstra's algorithm. What is the problem? What is the input? What is the output? And what is the main idea? Okay, and then we'll see an illustrative example to understand it. Okay, so let us start. So what is given to the Dijkstra algorithm? Okay, what is given for this algorithm is, you are given a weighted graph. Okay, and what is your objective? Your objective is to find shortest path from a given source to all vertices. Okay, So what this Dijkstra's algorithm is also known as popularly is single source shortest path. Okay, what does it mean? So suppose this is my weighted graph of any scenario I have modeled, and it's a weighted graph, obviously. Okay, and I choose a particular vertex as my source vertex. So what this algorithm is going to give you, it will tell you what is the shortest path from this source to every other vertex. Okay, like you can see, like for small graphs, you can directly see. So shortest path for this vertex is this. Okay, shortest path for vertex C is, let me name it, say 6, keep it weight 6. So this is the shortest path. Similarly, for this is the shortest path, and so on. So what Dijkstra's algorithm tells you, from a given source, what is the shortest path to every other vertex? Okay, so it's a single source shortest path. Okay, but there are other algorithms like Bellman-Ford algorithm, which will give you all pair shortest paths. That means what are the shortest paths between all possible pairs, like S to B, S to C, B to E, and so on. Okay, what we are going to study is only single source shortest path. That means given a source vertex, what is the shortest path from this source to every other vertex? Okay, is this clear, the difference between all pair and single source shortest path? I'm going to go very slow on this because there are a lot of things which will be new for you in this. Okay, please give me feedback at every step. If you don't understand, I'll repeat that. Okay, is this clear, the difference between single source and all pair shortest path? Yes, class, is this clear? So that is giving you shortest path from a particular vertex to every other vertex. Okay, whereas all pair shortest path algorithms, they give you shortest path between any pair of vertices in the given graph. Is that clear? Single source versus all pair shortest path. Okay, good. So what is your input is a weighted graph. Okay, and what you expect the output to be is a shortest path from a single source to every other source. Okay, which in technical terms is known as a spanning tree. We have not studied tree yet, but for now you just remember the term. We'll understand what is spanning tree in coming lectures. Okay, so your input is a weighted graph and output will be a spanning tree where there will be a shortest path from the single source to every other vertex. Okay, let's keep this technical term for now. Just remember it's a spanning tree. Okay, now we saw what is input, we saw what is output. Okay, let's now little dig deep into the input. What do we have in graph? In graph, as I said, since it's a weighted graph, you have three things associated with it: set of vertices, set of edges, okay, and a weight function from edges to real numbers. So edges are not simple edges, they are weighted edges. Okay, and let us denote for the purpose of understanding this algorithm the weight. Okay, so if I have say two nodes A and B, the weight of edge between A and B is denoted by cost of A comma B. Okay, so if A comma B is an edge, cost of A comma B denotes the weight of that edge. Okay, now what is the basic idea of greedy algorithm? It's a greedy algorithm. Okay, so far you don't have much idea what is greedy algorithm, but let me just give you an overview idea what do we mean generally of greedy algorithm, and different algorithms that you will study in due course of time. You will see a number of them are greedy, right? So what does this greedy word mean? So greedy in simple terms means that whenever you are given a scenario, okay, you choose the greedy option. Okay, what do I mean by greedy option? Okay, let me tell you. So suppose this is you, okay, and within your reach you can see say four cupboards. Okay, one has say 100 chocolates, other has 10 chocolates, 5 and 2 chocolates. Okay, so if you are a greedy person, which one would you choose? Cupboard 1, 2, 3, 4, and you like chocolates, which one would you choose? You will choose one, right? Very rarely someone would choose four. Okay, so that person should have a very good self-restraint. But most people will choose four. And what is this for first option? This is a greedy option because you're being greedy and you want to grab as many of them as possible. Okay, so exactly greedy algorithms behave in such manner. Okay, now let me extend this network. Okay, So once you get to this cupboard, after this there's another cupboard. Okay, so this is a network of cupboards. And suppose this cupboard has just 2, and this has then say 1,000, this has say 10,000, and this also has 10,000. Okay. Now since you have chosen this path, you are bound to hit this. So you can see your greedy decision was not good, right? If you might have taken the least possible one, you would have overall got a better benefit, right? But this is the idea of greedy algorithm. Okay. They don't look at the future trajectory. What they do is at every step they try to take a decision which is greedy, or which is greedy vis-a-vis that step. Okay, that's the difference between the optimized and a greedy algorithm. Optimized algorithm will, it will have a long sight. What you normally say, it's a far-sighted algorithm. बहुत दूर तक की सोचता है, right? But greedy algorithm is a very short-sighted algorithm. That means it will just look at the immediate step. What is the best decision I have? Okay, and this greedy decision it keeps on making at every step. And although I have constructed an example wherein it shows that greedy option was not good, but in general, researchers have found that if you take a greedy decision at every step, more likely, if not always, but most probably, like your probability of having a good answer always increases. Okay, and this like Dijkstra's algorithm also is a greedy algorithm. That means it's going to take a greedy decision at every step. Okay, is this clear? The idea of what is a greedy algorithm in general? Yes, class, is this clear? What is a greedy algorithm in general? Okay, the basic idea behind greedy algorithm is take the best decision at every step. Okay, be greedy at every step, basically. Now let's see what is the main logic of the algorithm. So the entire algorithm is going to rely on this formula. Okay, what is this formula? Let me just draw some notes and then I'll tell you. Okay, so suppose this is S. Okay, then you have Q. Okay, so suppose I have this distance. Okay, so there are 3 vertices S, Q, and R arranged in this manner. Okay, there is some weight. I'll not give the numbers to it for now. X, Y, Z weight. Okay, so what is this algorithm based on is the distance to R. Okay, from source, of course. What should it be equal to? What should be the final distance you allot to R? Okay, so forget about minimum. It should be either the distance what you have, existing distance, or suppose this was your direct link from S to R, that is the distance of R. Okay, or suppose there's a route to R via Q. So what you are saying is, what is the distance to Q from source, okay, plus the weight of the edge QR. Okay, so you can see if I want to find what is the shortest path between S and R, I have 2 possible options. Either I take the direct link or I go via Q. Okay, that is exactly this thing. This is your direct link, or what was the existing weight, and this is your indirect link, that is via Q. What is your cost? So that's why you are adding first the cost of Q and then the cost of the edge connecting Q and R. Obviously, if you have to choose between the two, so distance of R you can see is Z, and distance of Q is X, and weight of edge is Y. So you have Z and X plus Y. Now, if you have to decide which is the shortest one, what would you do? Obviously, you will take the minimum of the two, right? So that is exactly this formula. What you do in Dijkstra's algorithm is, given a vertex R, okay, and suppose there's an adjacent vertex Q to it, you update its cost only if the value of Q plus R is basically less than it. Okay, so you can see what is minimum doing here. Suppose this value is say 10 and the existing value of direct link was 2. So will this ever be able to replace this value, existing value? Yes, class, will this value be ever able to replace this? Note that there is a minimum in front of it. So suppose your existing cost of distance to R from source was 2 and if you take the next neighbor, pass via Q, it's giving you a cost of 10. Will this be ever able to replace the existing path? Yes, no. It will not, right? What is the scenario when this existing value will be replaced? What is the only condition when the existing value can be ever replaced and updated? Yes, class. When is this possible that the existing value will be replaced? Just look at this function and tell me. What is the only condition when the existing value is going to be definitely replaced by the new value or the updated value? Yes, class. When this minimum, you understand how minimum works, right? Minimum of a comma b returns the minimum of the two values, right? So when, tell me in this terms, when will, suppose x is equal to min a comma b, when will x be equal to a? What is the condition? If a is less than b, right? And x will be equal to b if a is greater than b, right? So exactly, if only in the situation when distance of r is greater than distance of q plus the edge weight of q and r combined, only then this will be updated. Otherwise, it won't be. Okay, so here you can see why Dijkstra's algorithm is a greedy algorithm. It is going to take a new route only if it is satisfies a greedy condition, if it gives you the least weight. Okay, and it makes sense because if you consider the same example S, R, and there's a node Q in between. Okay, so I give you a scenario where it's 2, 5, and 4. Okay, so what path would you choose to go from S to R? Would you choose a path via Q, or you will take the direct link SR? Which path would you choose and why? You would choose the direct path. Why? Because its weight is 4, while if you go via Q, its weight is 7, right? But now suppose I do this. Would your answer change? Exactly. So you can see it's not the concept of direct or indirect. But here, since we are in weighted scenarios, we are trying to look at the minimum weight. So in the first case, distance of R was 4 and distance of Q was 2 and cost of the edge Q and R was 5. So we had 4 was less than 7. So minimum would give the previous one only. So distance of R remained distance of R. But in the next scenario, when I changed it to 14, since 14 is greater than 7, I had to take the greedy approach. I would ditch the direct route and I would prefer to go via this intermediate route. Right? So basically, that is where you can see why Dijkstra's algorithm is a greedy algorithm. It takes a change only if it's benefiting it. If it would not benefit it, then it would stay with its earlier value. Okay? Is this clear? Is this clear? The idea of greedy and the main key like formula which we are going to use. Yes, class, is this clear? Okay. So let me come directly to the main algorithm. Okay, and let's see if we can move to the example today or not. So following are the steps what you need to do. Okay, so suppose S is your source vertex, as I said. Okay, I'm trying to show it via an implementation, assuming that you have studied arrays. You have studied arrays in C programming, right? At least arrays tak to pada hoga, if not structures. Arrays you have studied, everyone? Everyone knows what is a one-dimensional array, what's a two-dimensional array, at least 1 and 2. Yes, class, everyone knows array 1 and 2 at least is known, right? Good. Okay, so what we are going to do, as I said, it's a single source shortest path. Okay, so let that single source be small s. Okay, and I maintain a capital S as a set, as an array of all the visited vertices. Visited means, as I need to find what is the shortest path from this single source small s to all the vertices, So I need to keep track of whatever vertices I have visited. Okay. So the capital S denotes the visited vertices set and small s is the source set. Okay. Now what we do, if suppose I'll take some, toy example. So this is A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. So this is my single source dot is path. Now I need to initialize the values. What is the distance of S from itself? It's 0. So I'll assign it 0. And the set vertices I'll keep null because I have not visited anything. So that's the step 1. This is known as your initialization step. What is the initialization step? Whatever source from which you want to find the shortest path to every other node, you initialize its distance to 0, and the visited set of vertices is still null because you have not visited anything. Okay. Now, both step 1 and step 2 are initialization. For all other nodes, since you have not actually visited them, currently keep their distance as infinity because you have not yet explored and you don't know the weights of those edges. Okay. So the distance of the source from itself is 0 and all other vertices are currently unreachable or their distance is infinity. Okay. Now, what you are going to do in general, you try to look at the neighbors of the vertices. Okay, what you try to do, you try to see what are the direct neighbors of the vertices. So I have only 2 direct neighbors. So let me put some weight. Okay, now what are the 2 direct neighbor nodes or neighbors of your vertices of S? Okay, let me put a list here: S, A, B, C, D, E. What are the direct nodes of the vertices S? Direct neighbors. Direct neighbors means with whom you have a direct contact and you know them. Okay, in one shot you can know what is the cost of reaching them. So out of all these nodes, which are the direct nodes that are known to you? Very good, A and E. So A and E, I'll put the cost, that is the weight of the edge between them. Okay, that is your 1 and 2. Okay, all other vertices, they are currently unreachable because I'm just looking at my one hop neighbor, first shot. Okay, in first shot, I'm able to touch only 2 of my neighboring nodes. So I put their cost as 1, 2 and all others are infinity. Okay. So after I have assigned the cost to all of them after the initialization step and my direct neighbors, so the general idea is now in the entire list, check which is the minimum, whose distance is the minimum. So you should definitely visit that, right? Now in this list, you can put, S is already there. Out without S, what is the minimum of the vertex which has a minimum weight connected to S? A or E? So let me put it E here and B here. A has a least path. Okay. So what you do, whatever is the least path, you add it to the list. Okay, because it's now visited, and you see what are its neighbors. Okay, and for these neighbors, you check this formula. Okay, you apply the greedy formula. Now, what are the neighbors of A? So now A is visited, S was already the source. Now you have to look at the neighbors of A. What are the neighbors of A? Neighbors of A means direct neighbors of A. Okay, the neighbors of A are S. Okay, and you have S and you have B and you have D. Right, let's try to update them. Now let's look at first S itself. What is the existing distance to S? What is the distance of S from S? It's 0. Right? Now what is the distance to distance to A? It's 1. And cost of going from A to S is, apply this formula class. Distance of A, okay, plus edge between A and S. So what is this cost equal to? So it's like this, go to A and from A to come back. So this is also a valid path, right? What is its cost? You can see its cost is 2, right? Going from S to A and A to S. right? So minimum of the two is 0 only, so 0 will remain there, right? Now let's look at B. Okay, what is the cost of B? Cost of B is infinity. Okay, now apply this formula and tell me what is the cost via A to reach B. Existing cost was infinity, right? But what is now the updated cost? B is here. So you have, what is this value for B? So you have distance of A plus cost of AB. What is distance of A? What is distance of A? Just look at this table, class. What is the distance of A? Very good. It's 1. And cost of A plus B is 5, which is 6. And here you have infinity. So will it be updated as per the greedy algorithm? Yes, right? So it will become 6. Very good. So X is done, B is done. Now we have to look at D. Now can you tell me what is the value of D? It's infinity. And what will be the updated cost from this formula? So you have distance of A plus cost of edge AD. I want others also to try this. What will be the cost, this value, distance of A plus cost of A plus D for D node? Very good. It will be, this is 1 and plus 4, this is 5. So cost is, since minimum of infinity and 5, the minimum is 5, so it's 5. And this was already 1, this was 2, C is infinity still. Okay. Now, again, you need to follow the same rule. What is left which is unvisited? So minimum of that you have to put in the visited set. Visited set already has S, it has already A. Now what is the minimum of these? So 0 and 1 are already visited. Okay, so you always have to choose the minimum among the unvisited one. So which one would you choose now? Which is the minimum? So you have E2, C infinity, D5, D6. You will choose E. Okay, now again same rule. Find the neighbors of E and update their table. Okay, and this you are going to repeat till all the nodes come in the visited set. Okay, and once that is done, okay, you identify what is the routes you have chosen. Like for B you chose this, for D you chose this, and so on. Okay, we'll see it again tomorrow since the time is up now. Is the basic idea clear? We'll be trying many examples on this, so that you understand it properly. But is the main idea clear what you are trying to do? You have a single source, okay? You need to maintain a set of visited vertices, and the main idea is you take a greedy approach. You see whether the existing road is good or what you are taking via a new road is good. If the new road is good, only then you update it, otherwise you don't. And you keep on doing it till all the vertices are visited from that set, right? So I'll stop there. Any questions?